I think the whole thing is outrageous. This took nearly 9 years to happen. You would have had a murder trial begin and conclude within this time period many times over. Almost 9 years. These are rank and file guards, some of them in senior positions. But essentially, from what I can see, and I've long been speaking on this issue in the Dáil, I backed off recently because it was actually in the court and I couldn't be talking about it then. But I see this very much as a witch hunt. So this all centres around the whole idea of road traffic offences and guards having the power of discretion when they arrive at a scene or an incident. I have seen some of the teaching curriculum from Templemore Training College. So guards, from the very get-go, they go under all sorts of training, but one of the things that's always emphasised in Templemore is you always have the power of discretion, particularly when it comes to road traffic offences. Now, I've no policing training. I never went to Templemore, but I would understand that to be, and I'm a lawmaker in the Dáil, I would understand that to mean that if someone's racing to the maternity hospital, if there's a child who wasn't picked up at school, you need to urgently get there. If there's a really good explainable situation and a guard accepts that explanation, he or she can strike out the road traffic offence. That's what I understood it to be. But in the Limerick Garda division, and let's be clear, that encompasses quite an amount of County Clare, goes into a huge amount of South East Clare. There was a bit of a witch hunt because guards who exercised these powers of discretion were deemed to have acted beyond the law. They were suspended with pay, taken off the streets, taken off the beat, performing no Garda functions whatsoever for a 9-year period. Beyond that, the other point I would have huge concern about here is it wasn't just the 5 guards who were actually in the circuit court for the last few weeks. There was also a huge net of more junior guards, a couple of dozen of them, I understand, who had personal phones, laptops confiscated from them. There was a shroud of suspicion cast over all of them. It has really messed up their careers. It has hampered their chances of promotion. It has damaged their good standing reputation. So I think there's a lot more to come of this, and I hope to raise it in the Dáil during the week. I think guards who've been caught up in all of this deserve apologies, deserve explanations. Being acquitted and deemed to be innocent is only the start of this, I would think.
You have to say, has this irreparably damaged An Garda Síochána's reputation? And will it do some damage to recruitment going forward as well?
I would say it has damaged the standing of some people in very high leadership in the organisation. They led out this. This wasn't something from the rank and file level of An Garda Síochána. There was a witch hunt. There were people in the higher echelons who wanted, they wanted a pound of flesh, I think, here. And this has dragged on for far, far too long. Things have to be improved from this. I think one of the first things is what is discretion. Now that's even as I pose that question rhetorically, I know it's hard. Like, discretion has to be open-ended, but I do think there needs to be some way, some mechanism within which guards are allowed to use it, ways in which they can't use it, and there probably should be a way of recording acts of discretion with their superiors in the station. There's probably things to be tightened up on, but certainly this did not warrant or merit being brought before the court system. I think it has really put fear into guards, and I think we saw this, a manifestation of this just 18 months ago when that awful night of protests happened in Dublin. We saw really highly trained guards with, who are really good at policing skills. They know how to manage law and order and riot situations, but they were paralysed on the streets of Dublin. They didn't know how to react. I criticised that at the time in the Dáil, and I feel that many guards didn't act or react to the situation unfolding in front of them because they fear repercussions from the higher echelons. They have GSOC breathing down their backs. They have Garda headquarters in Phoenix Park. I think we need to get back to kind of a little bit of old-fashioned policing here. Law-abiding people listening to Clare FM now in this interview, I'm sure they would appreciate, as I would appreciate, if our guards were allowed to be tough, robust, on the street, keeping thugs at bay, keeping property safe, keeping law and order. And most of us don't interface with guards day to day. Yeah, we might squirm if we see blue lights on the motorway and we're going a few kilometres over speed limit. Fine, we all live with that. But in terms of basic criminal law and order stuff, I would like to see the guards being more robust. I would like to think that government, that Garda headquarters, that their superiors in the station would have their back. And I think for the last few years, I don't think Garda headquarters has had their back. And I would think someone who has to answer some questions here would be former Commissioner Drew Harris. He obviously he had an impressive CV, but he came from a policing scenario in Northern Ireland where it was it was a different type of policing. It wasn't policing by consent, it was policing by division. And I think he came down with ideas about reforming the organisation, and they didn't fit so well. The current chief constable, also on a total tangent here, made some awful remarks a few weeks ago about the War of Independence period and how people from the old IRA were basically committing acts of terror. If you want to lead out the Garda organisation, I think you're far better off coming through the ranks of the organisation, like the Defence Forces. I don't think we need to be recruiting from PSNI anymore. We find guards coming up through the ranks. They're the people I want to see leading out in Garda Síochána, and I think they will better understand the principles of discretion, the principles of community policing, policing by consent. I don't want there to be another witch hunt, and I think another thing we need to establish in the coming days is how much has this whole debacle cost the taxpayer, because it has been an absolute waste.
It's cost over €3 million. And we've seen that figure reported already. But it's interesting that you mention the Garda Commissioner, because now the person who holds that office is Justin Kelly, and it will be very interesting to see, does he make a formal response to this, and does he issue a formal apology to the 5 guards here from the Limerick and Clare divisions?
Well, I think there should be a formal apology, but I will go further than that. There's still a lot of more junior guards caught up in this whole net of suspicion. Now that the 5 accused have been acquitted, I think it's very important that any other pending actions against these couple of dozen extra guards, they need to be struck out. If this case didn't hold water in the circuit court in the last few days, then all the remaining tentacles of the case, I think, fall with it. So I think they need to get back to basics. And I really think, I think policing has become too watered down in the last few years. I've met with Minister Jim O'Callaghan many times. I think he has very much taken policing by the scruff of the neck. He has instilled, I think, confidence back in the members of Garda Síochána that he has their back, that they can police, they can keep the streets safe, and that he'll support them. But most people, anyone law-abiding, wants to see a police force, a Garda Síochána force here in Ireland that is able to go out, harangue thugs, put handcuffs on people, push them into the back of squad cars, clean up streets, tackle drug dealers. That's the kind of policing. I'm quite liberal and left when it comes to social issues, Dara, but when it comes to law and order, I'm quite on the right flank of things here. I want our streets kept safe, and I have full faith and confidence in our guards, but I don't think the higher echelons of their organisation served them well in the last few years, and a big apology is owed here. Certainly a big apology, and it has been a failure, I think. And I live in that corner of County Clare where the Limerick Garda Division covers our localities, and we could see the service quite hollowed out. We could see it demoralised. I remember in recent years wearing my citizen's cap as opposed to political representative cap, phoning guards, and the morale was so low that they would actually tell you on the phone, look, we can't really deal with that situation unless we get a directive from a sergeant or a superintendent. That's not how it's supposed to be, but that is the culture that I think got a grip on that division, and we need to quickly move on from that.